The desert was silent that night. No wind, no insects, no sound at all. Mark Wren, a young human engineer, was driving back to his outpost after fixing a power line when the sky suddenly flashed bright white. For 1 second, the whole desert looked like day. Then boom, something crashed far in the distance, throwing sand into the air like a giant wave. Mark hit the brakes so hard the tires screamed. He stared at the glowing smoke rising on the horizon. Another meteor? He whispered. But meteors did not leave metal shining in the firelight. Curiosity pulled him forward. Fear pushed him back. Curiosity won. He drove toward the crash site. When he reached it, his heart stopped. A small silver escape pod was half buried in the sand. It hissed and sparked like it had survived a war. Strange purple symbols glowed on its surface, symbols Mark had never seen. He stepped closer, slowly, careful with every breath. Then he heard it. A faint, weak sound. A whisper. Help. Mark froze. Someone was inside. He rushed to the pod, pulling at the metal hatch until his hands burned. After several tries, he managed to pry it open. Smoke escaped. Lights flickered. And inside, wrapped in torn cloth, lay a young alien girl. Her skin was pale silver. Her hair was long and white like frozen snow. But her eyes were bright. Blue, full of fear and pain. She looked at Mark as if he was the last being in the universe she could trust. Please, don't call them, she whispered. Mark blinked. Call who? She tried to sit up but cried quietly and fell back. Mark gently helped her out of the pod. She was shaking like she had traveled through fire and storms at the same time. My name is Mark. I'm human. You're safe now, he said softly. But she only shook her head. No, no one is safe. They are coming. They will find me. They will destroy everything. Mark felt cold air brush down his spine. This was no normal accident. What happened to you? He asked. She looked around the desert with terrified eyes, as if invisible enemies watched from the shadows. Then she leaned close to Mark and whispered words that made his heart freeze. I saw too much, and they threw me away. Before Mark could ask anything, a loud, distant hum began. A sound like machines waking from a long sleep. The girl grabbed his arm tightly. They found me, she whispered. We must run. Mark looked around. Far in the sky, small black shapes were approaching, fast, sharp, and precise. Not human aircraft. Not anything from Earth. He helped the girl into his vehicle. She could barely move, but her eyes stayed fixed on the machines in the sky. As he started the engine, sand rose behind them. The black shapes came lower, scanning the desert. Who are they? Mark asked, trying to stay calm. She answered with a trembling voice. Hunters, from the Dominion. They want me dead. And if they find me with you, they will kill you too. Mark pressed the accelerator. The vehicle shot across the sand. The girl's voice grew weaker. I should not be alive. They do not allow witnesses. Not for what I saw. Mark looked at her, shocked. What did you see? She stared forward, tears forming in her bright blue eyes. Something that can end worlds. The shadows of the hunters grew larger in the mirror. The chase had begun. Mark drove through the desert as fast as the old vehicle could go. Behind him, the sky was filling with dark shapes. Dominion hunter drones. Their lights blinked like cold stars, and their engines made a low growl that vibrated in Mark's bones. The alien girl sat weak and trembling beside him, holding her arms close as if trying to keep herself from falling apart. Her breathing was shallow. Her silver skin looked even paler under the vehicle's dim lights. Mark kept checking the mirror. They're getting closer, he said. The girl didn't look back. She only whispered, they never stop. Mark drove toward an abandoned workshop he used for repairing machines, hidden between two rocky hills. Few people knew this place existed. Maybe it would give them time. When the metal doors closed behind them, the world fell silent again. Mark helped the girl lie on a workbench. She winced with every movement. He searched for medical supplies, but the human tools looked too simple. For her strange injuries, "What's your name?" he asked gently. She breathed slowly before answering. "Lyra." Mark nodded. "Lyra, you're safe here, but I need to know what's happening. Who are those hunters? Why are they after you?" Lyra's eyes stared at him, tired, scared, but also filled with something heavier. "Guilt. I worked for the Dominion," she said quietly. "I was a data keeper. I organized research files. Nothing important, nothing dangerous. Or so I believed." Mark listened carefully. "But something changed," he guessed. Lyra nodded. "One day, I saw a restricted file. It was unlocked by mistake. My job was to close errors. But curiosity trapped me. I opened it." A shiver went through her body, as if the memory itself hurt. "Inside the file," she continued, "was information about a project called Silence." Mark frowned. "Silence? A weapon," Lyra whispered. "But not a normal weapon. It does not use fire or bullets. It uses absence. It erases life, sound, matter, everything. A whole planet can disappear without anyone hearing a single scream." Mark felt his stomach twist. "That can't be real." Lyra looked at him with sad eyes. "I wished it wasn't, but the data was clear. The Dominion planned to test it. Soon, they wanted a small, quiet planet. One that no one would miss." Her voice cracked. "Earth was on the list." Mark felt cold all over. "Earth? Why? Humans have no war with them. To the Dominion, new species are problems. Too many voices, too many ideas. They prefer silence." Lyra tried to sit up but collapsed again. Mark quickly supported her. "When I understood what the project was," she said, "I saved a copy of the data in my memory crystal. I wanted to expose them, but someone discovered my access. The Overseer himself." Mark interrupted. "The Overseer? Who is that?" Lyra's body trembled. "The man who controls Project Silence. The one who decides which worlds live and which vanish. He looked at me as if I was already dead." She sighed softly. "He ordered the soldiers to throw me into an escape pod and eject me into space. He said I was useless noise." Mark clenched his jaw in anger. "But you survived," he said. Lyra nodded weakly. "My pod crashed. Here. But the hunters track anything that escapes the Dominion. They want the crystal. They want me gone." She touched the small glowing shard on a chain around her neck. "This crystal holds the proof," she whispered. "If the Overseer gets it, Earth will disappear." Mark stepped back, thinking hard. "Then we protect it." "We protect you." Lyra looked confused. "Why? This is not your fight." Mark met her eyes with steady courage. "Wrong. If someone wants to erase my world, it becomes my fight." Before Lyra could respond, the workshop lights flickered. A shadow moved outside. Hunters had found them. The workshop lights flickered again, once, twice, and then went completely dark. Mark froze. Lyra held her breath. Outside, something heavy landed on the sand with a dull metallic thud. "They're here," Lyra whispered. Mark grabbed a small flashlight and pointed it toward the door. The beam trembled in his shaking hand. Lyra tried to sit up, but she winced and fell back against the bench. "You can't move," Mark said quietly. "Just stay low." But Lyra shook her head. "They will search everywhere. They always find what they want." Her voice was so soft that Mark could barely hear it. A sharp scraping sound came from the metal door, something dragging across it. Testing it, learning its shape. Mark swallowed hard. How many hunters? Lyra closed her eyes, trying to sense. Them. 3 drones, and 1 soldier. Human-sized but faster. Stronger. The Dominion builds killers with no hearts. Mark slowly peeked through a crack in the wall. Outside, under the pale moonlight, small black drones hovered in the air like metal insects. Their red scanners swept across the sand, bright and deadly. But the thing that scared Mark wasn't the drones. It was the tall figure standing between them. The soldier wore a tight metallic suit and a helmet with a single glowing eye. Every breath it took sounded unnatural, like a machine forcing air through broken lungs. Mark whispered, "We need to leave." Now, Lyra nodded weakly. "There's a tunnel under your workshop, yes?" Mark was surprised. "How do you know?" Lyra pointed at the ground. "I saw tools for underground work. Humans leave clues everywhere." Mark hurried to the floor behind a row of shelves and kicked away a piece of metal. A square hatch was hidden under it. The scraping on the door grew louder. Lyra struggled to stand. Her legs shook. Mark supported her, guiding her toward the hatch. He lifted the cover and revealed a narrow tunnel leading into darkness. "Go," he said. Lyra hesitated. "You first." "No," Mark insisted. "If they enter, you won't be fast enough to escape. Move." Lyra finally obeyed. She lowered herself into the tunnel, her breathing fast and uneven. Mark followed, pulling the hatch shut above them. They crawled through the tight passage, their hands brushing cold dirt. Behind them, the workshop door finally gave in with a violent crash. The hunters were inside. Lyra whispered, "We don't have long." Mark tried to stay calm. "This tunnel goes to the old water station. From there to the mountains." "Mountains?" she repeated, as if the word brought her some comfort. "They have caves. No scanners can track through thick rock." Lyra smiled faintly. "Humans think of everything." A shrill metallic scream echoed from behind them. The soldier had found the tunnel entrance. Lyra's eyes widened. "They're coming." Mark grabbed her hand. "Then we run." The tunnel tilted upward, leading to a rusty door. Mark kicked it open, and cold night air rushed in. They climbed out near an old water tank half buried in sand. Lyra gasped. Her legs almost collapsed. Mark held her tightly. "You're getting worse," he said. "It's the energy inside me," Lyra whispered. "The weapon, Project Silence. I saw it with my own eyes. The radiation is slowly killing me." Mark felt a heavy ache in his chest. "We'll fix it, somehow." Lyra looked toward the stars with fear. "The Overseer. He is coming. I can feel him. When he arrives, everything changes." A sudden flash lit the desert. The drones had found the tunnel exit. "Run!" Mark shouted, pulling Lyra toward the mountains. Behind them, the hunters rose into the air, their red lights glowing brighter. The chase was no longer a possibility. It had already begun. The night sky above the desert shifted from quiet darkness to a strange silver glow. Mark and Lyra were still running across the sand, heading toward the mountains, when Lyra suddenly stopped. Her eyes widened. Her body froze. Even her breath halted. "Lyra?" Mark asked, turning back. She didn't answer. Her gaze was locked on the sky. Then a soft trembling passed through the ground, like the earth itself was nervous. "He's here," Lyra whispered. Mark followed her gaze. A massive shadow emerged from the clouds. It wasn't a drone. It wasn't a soldier. It was a ship, silent, smooth, shaped like a black tear falling from the heavens. The Dominion flagship. A ramp extended slowly, touching the desert like a blade. From the ramp stepped a tall figure in a long dark coat, moving with calm precision. His eyes glowed faintly under a metal hood, and every step he took made the air feel heavier. Lyra whispered in fear. Even speaking his name drained her strength. Mark had seen soldiers and assassins before, but this was something else. The Overseer didn't look angry or rushed. He looked certain. Certain that everything on this planet belonged to him the moment he arrived. Drones formed a circle around him. The soldier from the workshop kneeled at his feet. "Target located," it said in a robotic voice. She is running with a human. The overseer lifted his hand slightly. Bring her, he said, his voice calm, smooth, almost gentle but colder than the desert night. Mark grabbed Lyra's wrist. We have to move now. Lyra stumbled as they ran again, but she forced her legs to keep going. Mark, listen, she said through heavy breaths. The overseer can read minds. If he gets close, he will know everything, my memories. The weapon, your world. Then we keep him far away, Mark replied, trying to sound brave, but the overseer wasn't chasing. He walked slowly, as if he already knew how this would end. He raised his hand again, not toward them, but toward the sky. A pulse shot upward, invisible but powerful. Within seconds, every human communication tower across the region went offline. Screens went black. Signals died. Earth was blind. Lyra looked back horrified. He just cut your world off to isolate us. Mark clenched his jaw. Coward. No, Lyra whispered. A strategist. The drones accelerated, closing distance fast. Mark and Lyra reached the edge of the Rocky Mountains. Sharp stones cut at their feet, but they didn't stop. The caves were close. Just a little further, behind them, the overseer stopped walking. He raised his head, watching them with calm interest. Then he smiled. A quiet, terrifying smile. He is marking us, Lyra whispered. He knows our path. How? Mark demanded. He can sense the crystal, she replied, touching the glowing shard hanging from her neck. It contains Dominion code. He can track it anywhere. Mark stopped running. Lyra looked at him in confusion. What are you doing? Mark's mind raced. He's tracking the crystal, so we need to confuse him. He took a small metal bolt from his pocket. Give me the crystal. Lyra hesitated, terrified to let it go. If he gets it, Earth dies. He won't, Mark said firmly. Trust me. With shaking hands, she removed the crystal. Mark tied it around the bolt and threw it into a dark canyon far from their real path. A few seconds later, the drones all shifted direction, darting toward the canyon like arrows. Lyra stared in shock. It worked, Mark smiled. Humans are very good at distracting people, but Lyra didn't smile back. Her voice dropped to a whisper. No, it didn't. Mark turned out. The overseer was still walking toward them, slowly, calmly, as if he knew exactly where she really was. Lyra's face turned pale. He marked me, she whispered. Not the crystal, me. The chase wasn't over. It was only becoming worse. The mountains rose like dark giants before Mark and Lyra, their jagged edges slicing the night sky. The overseer was still walking behind them, slow, calm, sure like a predator that enjoyed the chase more than the catch. Lyra stumbled again, her legs shaking. Mark caught her before she fell. You're freezing, he said. I'm fading. Lyra whispered. The energy inside me. It's growing stronger. It's hurting me. Her skin glowed faintly, like thin light moving under her veins. We'll fix it, Mark promised, though he had no idea how. Behind them, the overseer lifted one hand. A thin blue line of light extended from his palm and scanned the rocks. A thin blue line of light extended from his palm and scanned the rocks. Wasn't guessing. He wasn't searching. He was tracking her very heartbeat. Mark pulled Lyra into a narrow crack between two stone walls. Move carefully. Don't make noise. Lyra nodded weakly. Her breath was shallow, each inhale a struggle. As they moved deeper, Mark realized she was slipping in and out of consciousness. We have to find shelter, Mark whispered, but Lyra shook her head. No shelter can hide me. Only movement buys time. Her voice sounded smaller than ever. When they reached a wide rock shelf overlooking the lower valley, Mark stopped. A strange idea had begun forming in his mind. That it was a stupid idea, a dangerous idea, a plan that should not work, but it was all they had. "Lyra," he said, turning to her, "you said Dominion ships have power crystals that can heal you, right?" Lyra blinked slowly. "Yes. Dominion medical systems use a special blue crystal. It repairs energy damage. And the Overseer's ship has those?" Lyra frowned. "Of course, but Mark, you cannot reach it. It is guarded. It is locked. It is death." Mark looked at the glowing valley where the massive Dominion ship waited like a sleeping monster. "Maybe," he said. "But that ship is the only chance you have to survive." Lyra stared at him as if she couldn't decide whether he was brave or foolish. "Mark, you're human. Humans cannot break into Dominion vessels." He smiled a little. "Humans break into things all the time." Before Lyra could argue, a sudden sharp whistle cut through the air. A drone shot down from the sky, firing a laser beam that sliced the rock beside them. Mark grabbed Lyra and rolled behind a boulder. Dust exploded everywhere. "They found us again," Lyra whispered in horror. Mark's eyes landed on a narrow path spiraling downward, a dangerous cliff trail leading toward the valley. He pointed to it. "We're not running from the ship anymore," he said. "We're running to it." Lyra's eyes widened. "Mark, the Overseer, will follow. Good. Let him." Lyra grabbed his arm. "Mark, he wants the crystal. But he wants me more. If he captures me, he activates the weapon. Earth will be the test site." Mark felt a cold knot tighten in his chest. "But he didn't back down. Then we don't let him capture you. We take the fight to him before he expects it." He lifted Lyra carefully in his arms. She was lighter than he expected, too light, as if the energy inside her was burning away her strength. As they descended the path, lasers blasted above them, cutting stone like butter. Mark ran, sliding down unstable rocks, barely staying on his feet. The Overseer watched from the mountain ridge, expression unreadable. He is not stopping us," Lyra whispered, frightened. "He doesn't need to," Mark replied. "He thinks he's already won." But Mark had one advantage. The Overseer did not understand. Humans didn't follow rules. Humans made chaotic, impossible plans. And sometimes, just sometimes, those plans worked. They reached the valley floor. The huge Dominion ship loomed above them like a dark god. Mark whispered, "Lyra, tonight we're stealing your cure from the enemy." Lyra closed her eyes and whispered back, "Then may the stars protect us." "Because the Overseer won't." The Dominion ship towered above Mark and Lyra like a steel mountain. Its smooth black surface reflected the moonlight, cold and lifeless. Strange symbols glowed on the hull, shifting like living shadows. Even from far away, Lyra could feel the ship's presence in her bones. It was a place she never wanted to return to. "This ship," Lyra whispered, trembling, "it is built to crush hope." Mark tightened his grip on her hand. "Then let's break something inside it." A faint smile flickered across her tired face. Mark helped her move toward a service hatch half hidden under the sand. Dominion ships were designed with perfect logic, but humans were experts at finding mistakes, and Mark had spotted a tiny ventilation outlet near the engines. Using a screwdriver and a piece of scrap metal, he pried it open. Lyra blinked. "This is impossible. Dominion locks cannot be broken by simple tools." Mark grinned. "Good thing I'm not using them correctly." Inside, the air was cold and metallic, filled with the soft hum of alien machines. The narrow shafts glowed with faint blue lines. Lyra could barely keep her balance. Her body felt heavier with every step. Mark supported her, guiding her through twisting metal pathways. Suddenly, Lyra stopped. She placed a hand on the wall, her eyes widening. "This ship, it's connected to a network. I can feel it. If I reach a terminal, I can send a message." "A message to who?" Mark asked. "To the entire Dominion." Mark stared at her. "Is that a good idea?" "It might be the only idea," she whispered. After several turns, they reached a maintenance chamber. Screens glowed faintly in the dark, showing streams of alien symbols. Lyra touched one, and the language shifted into something Mark could almost understand, fractured, but readable. She connected her crystal to the panel. The ship powered brighter, as if recognizing her code. Mark watched nervously. "Are you okay?" Lyra's voice grew steady, almost strong. "I'm sending the truth. About Project Silence. About what the Overseer plans to do. If the Dominion learns they are being used as tools, if they learn their worlds are also at risk, they will rebel." A spark shot through the panel, lighting the room with sharp blue flashes. Mark stepped forward. "Lyra, stop if it's hurting you." But Lyra didn't stop. Her eyes glowed with fierce determination. "Pain is nothing," she whispered, "when a galaxy needs saving." Across the ship, alarms blared. Lyra pulled the crystal free. "The message is out. They will see the danger. They will know the Overseer is a traitor." Mark grabbed her arm. "Then we need your cure, before he stops us." They ran toward the medical bay. But just as they reached the doorway, the wall exploded behind them. Mark was thrown forward. Lyra collapsed next to him. A tall shadow stepped through the smoke. The Overseer. His voice was calm. "Human, you disappoint me. You should have run when you had the chance." Mark stood between him and Lyra. "Not happening." The Overseer tilted his head. "You protect her. Even though she brings doom to your kind, she brings truth," Mark said. "And humans fight for that." The Overseer extended his hand. Blue energy crackled around his fingers. "You are not authorized to speak." Mark rushed to a nearby control panel and slammed his fist onto it. Lights flickered. Engines roared. He had triggered the engine overload protocol something he barely understood. The ship trembled. The Overseer's calm expression finally cracked. "What have you done?" Mark backed away, pulling Lyra with him. "Buying time." The Overseer stepped forward, fury sharpening his voice. "You cannot stop Project Silence. You cannot stop me." Maybe Mark couldn't, but he could break the machine the Overseer relied on. Mark dragged Lyra into a smaller corridor as sparks rained from the ceiling. The ship shook violently. Lyra coughed, barely conscious. "Mark," she whispered. "The weapon, the Overseer. He will activate it soon." "When?" Mark asked. Lyra looked at him with fading strength. "He will start it now. Earth is the first target." The ship shook harder. The countdown had begun. The Dominion ship groaned like a dying beast. Lights flickered. Sirens wailed. The engines Mark had overloaded were shaking the entire structure, sending deep vibrations through every metal surface. Mark held Lyra close as they moved down the trembling corridor. Her breathing was shallow, each inhale weaker than the last. Faint blue light pulsed under her skin, fading like a dying star. "Stay with me," Mark whispered. "We're almost at the medical bay." Lyra touched his arm with cold fingers. "Mark, you don't have to save me." He tightened his grip. "Yes, I do." The ship suddenly lurched. A blast door slammed shut behind them, sealing off the way they came. The Overseer's angry voice echoed through the speakers. "Human, surrender the girl. Project Silence awaits activation." Lyra's eyes widened. "He's starting the weapon." Mark looked back toward the engine core. Heat swelled from the overload. "Unstable, dangerous. If we don't hurry," he said, "this ship will explode before we get the cure." Lyra closed her eyes in pain. "Maybe that is better. If the ship dies, the Overseer dies with it." Mark shook his head. "And Earth dies with him. He'll trigger the weapon before the explosion hits." He lifted her gently. "Come on." They reached the medical bay door. It was locked, sealed by Dominion code. Lyra extended her trembling hand, pressing it to the scanner. The ship's systems hesitated, recognizing her genetic tag. then unlocked the door with a soft hiss. Inside, pale white lights flickered on. Rows of machines lined the walls, filled with glowing blue crystals. Lyra stared at them, tears forming. These are healing cores. Mark carried her to a small chamber. He placed her inside, and the door sealed with a hum. The crystal platform lit up, and soft blue light covered her body like mist. Lyra gasped as warmth filled her veins. Her skin brightened. Her pulse steadied. Mark watched through the glass, breathless with hope. But the moment was short. A deafening crash echoed down the corridor. The overseer was coming. Mark urgently checked the control panel. Lyra, how long will the healing take? Lyra answered weakly, her voice muffled through the chamber wall. Not long. But mark the weapon's countdown. It has already begun. He turned to the ship's central monitor. A glowing red timer was ticking down. Earth had 2 minutes left. Mark's heart hammered. Lyra, how do we stop it? You cannot, she whispered. But I might. She closed her eyes and reached deep into the healing chambers. Core. The blue energy swirled around her, merging with the faint light inside her body. A glowing pattern formed on her skin, like stars joining into a constellation. Mark watched in awe and fear. Lyra, what are you doing? Her voice was soft, almost peaceful. I am connecting to the weapons control network. The overseer controls it through his mind. But I was once part of the Dominion system too. If I link deeper, I can fight him. Mark's throat tightened. But that could kill you, Lyra smiled faintly. The galaxy is bigger than one life, even mine. Suddenly, the medical bay wall exploded inward. Metal flew like shrapnel. Sparks rained down. The overseer stepped through the smoke. His cloak burned at the edges, his eyes blazing with fury. You ruined everything, he hissed. The weapon must activate. Silence will bring order. Mark stood between him and Lyra. No, silence brings death. The overseer raised his hand, but Lyra's voice echoed through the ship. Not today. The lights turned blue. Energy surged from the chamber, wrapping around the overseer like chains of pure light. His eyes widened in shock. No. He growled, you are too weak. Lyra's voice trembled but rose with strength. Maybe, but I am not alone. Mark grabbed a metal rod and smashed the overseer's control key from his wrist. Sparks burst. The overseer screamed as the connection broke. The weapon countdown froze at 0 hours 0 minutes and 4 seconds. Then the whole system shut down. Silence, not real silence. Lyra collapsed inside the chamber. Mark rushed to open it, pulling her into his arms. She was breathing. Weak, but breathing. Mark, she whispered. Did we save your world? Mark smiled through tears. You saved it. She touched his cheek gently. They threw me away, Mark, she whispered. But a human picked me up. Mark held her close. And now, he said softly, you're home. Above them, the Dominion ship began to break apart. But for the first time since this nightmare began, the stars looked peaceful.